ladies virtually. I haven't been in the same room with so many ladies in a while, thanks to COVID, but it's glad to be here. Sheyi has kind of laid the standard a bit too high, but I would hope that I do not disappoint you in the time that we have. Just a bit of a welcome note. I am the product of strong, successful women. And I would like to clarify that this is the best group of people that I can ever be speaking to. I'll give you a bit of my background and why I think that a world without powerful, strong women is a failed society. I was raised by a widow, a lady who became a widow at the age of 22, 23, with her 3 kids and refused to remarry. And that widow was an uneducated widow, but she understood the power of education. And everything I am, that I can be or will be, was based on the foundation of this strong woman called my mom. And so I just wanted to say to all the women out here, you guys have a kind of blessing that nobody else can compete or match with. I'm married to a wonderful woman who is also the product of a very strong widow who was raised alone by her mom. So we kind of aligned in that basis. And with God having a great sense of humor, I'm blessed with 2 beautiful, strong girls that I could kill for. So I am surrounded by women, and I am a strong advocate for women who do business, who make money, and most importantly, bring up other people to success. Sheyi has given me a task today to talk about what I do for a living and how I can help women who do business, which is really about selling. And so if I do have the power of the screen, I'm going to be sharing my slide.
Yes, sir.
Please, could you enable?
Okay, Stephanie, please make him a co-host.
It doesn't seem like I'm able to.
Stephanie, please make him a co-host.
Okay, so before the slide starts, how many women here, do we know how to use the voting system, right?
You should be able to show your slides now.
Does everyone know how to use the voting system? I was just going to ask here. Okay, so let me see if I can share my slides. Yes. Tell me when you see it, and I'll then go into presentation mode.
Yes, we can see it.
Is it still loading?
Yes, it's loading.
Is it loading, or can you see the first screen?
No, it's loading.
That's my internet again. Okay, but while it's loading, let me check. How many of us here have ever sold anything in our life before? If you just raise your hand on your screen, I think I can see. If you've ever sold anything in your life, can anyone do a count?
Okay, we have 21 as of now. Okay, 23, 24, 25.
Okay. Fantastic. So everyone has sold something before. While I was in school, my lecturer used to say that I had a sharp tongue, and that if anyone gets into trouble, I can always get away from trouble with my sharp tongue. And really, he said it so many times that he was the one that actually nudged me into selling and into being a salesperson. And then he said, listen, if you are able to understand people's needs, use the right words to convince them, and get them to exchange something for that, you'll be great in sales. So go and do sales. My original degree was in urban and regional planning, where I met Sheyi, but I never practiced for one day. So let's get into the anatomy of sales. Power on my slides, and I will tell you why Sheyi thinks I should talk about this topic and why I'm the one talking about this topic. It is because I have been blessed with the eyes of seeing problems, not just today's problems, but problems that are coming ahead of time. And I've been blessed with a heart to find solutions to those problems, but only solutions that people are willing to pay for. Please note that last line in selling on anything you're designing is very important. Seeing a problem is simple. Building a solution is easy. If people are not willing to pay for it, then you are building a nonprofit, an NGO. I respect NGOs, but I don't think the world revolves around NGOs. People have to exchange something for a solution. And so all through my life, I've been the kid that says, look, the way things are going, this is a problem coming down the line. But not only is it a problem, this is the way I think we can meet that problem when it comes. And then of recent, in my last 15, 20 years, ask people to pay for that solution. It is no irony that my name is Joseph. So I'm going to go scriptural if you don't mind. The thing about Joseph in the Bible was exactly this. He was able to see problems ahead of time. He was able to ask for solutions for Pharaoh, to back that solution and pay him with a reward by making him the chief minister for it. That's the three principles, I believe, for any businessman or any salesperson. If you cannot see the problem, you've already missed the train. If you don't have the heart to think about how do we find possible solutions, not the perfect solution, not the only solution, but a possible solution that you explore with the customer or client. And if you cannot have the confidence to ask the client to pay money for that advisory service, then you cannot sell. So if you run a hairdressing salon, if you run a cyber cafe, if you're in agri-tech, if you're any business you're doing, this is the first three principle DNA for sales. See the problem. I also want to clarify, it is not you seeing your problem, it is seeing the customer's problem from the customer's eyes. Many times we open a business thinking that our business is here to address a problem. The problem is the problem that we think we see. But we cannot see the problem. It has to be the problem that the client or the customer sees. If you're a doctor, people don't walk into your clinic and you say, oh, I see your problem, you have tuberculosis. No, we wait for the person to tell us the problem and we go on that journey with the patient. And then we say, wow, I feel your pain. Let me, again, heart. That means it's beyond your intellectual competence. Doesn't matter if you did an MBA, doesn't matter if you went to school to study medicine or you're the best seamstress. You must have a heart for finding solutions. And lastly, making sure that you are only speaking to those who are willing to pay for that solution. If you're speaking to those who just see it as a blessing, as a gift, then you had better just open a church and be giving free advice. Okay. With everyone, am I clear? I can't see your screen. I'm just talking to myself and looking at the presentation, so pardon me. So okay. The anatomy of a salesperson is broken into 3 blocks. First, the ability to see problems. I will qualify that by saying today's problems and tomorrow's problems. People will pay for today's problem, but they will pay more for tomorrow's problem. Let me give you a simple example. If I run a hairdressing salon and a lady walks in and says, I want to make my hair, I might tell the lady it's going to cost $10. That's fine. She might pay $10. But if the lady walks in and tells me, I have an event coming up in 2 weeks' time, and I need to make my hair for that event, I want to book in advance. And I say, well, that event is going to be a bank holiday weekend. A lot of women will be making their hair at that time. If I book you in, would you be willing to pay $25? She most likely will pay 25 over 10 because today's problem is big, tomorrow's problem is bigger. So my first advice to every woman in this group, in your business, make sure your business is addressing today's problem for money that keeps you going. But begin to ask yourself, what's the problem for tomorrow that I need to address? The second part, a heart for solution. If I tell all of you today that there's going to be civil war in Sierra Leone, that's a problem. We all see the problem now, we all see the problem tomorrow. But there are few of us in here who will look at that problem and say, where are the opportunities in this problem? Is there an opportunity to move people out of the country and get them to pay for it? Is there an opportunity to create a private security service that people will pay for it? So as they say in Nigeria, problem no dey finish. There's always a problem. But the smartest ones are the ones who don't wail over the problem, is the one who uses heart to find a solution for the problem. Second block. My question to you ladies in this room is, whatever service you're providing, is it a heart-based solution or are you just joining the bandwagon? Everybody is selling recharge cards, so I'm going to sell a recharge card. It's just because there is a need in the market. Now we are not addressing needs here, we're addressing solutions. Businesses built on solution would outlast businesses trying to provide a need. The last block of the DNA is the willingness to pay. All of us in this room would like to travel to space. Do you all think that we are Jeff Bezos's customer? Absolutely not. The reason why, maybe it's me, but I'm not willing to pay for it. I like the ride. I would take the ride if it comes for free, but I'm not willing to pay for that service. Your true customers are only the ones who put their hands in their pockets and are willing to pay for it. You need to distill those who are for the freebies, who are coming because there's buy one, get one later, or buy two, get one at half price. Those are not your customers. Those are opportunistic people. A real salesperson is able to distill and focus in on the paying customer. Any multinational you go to, they will always talk about the paying customer. Last week, Netflix delivered their results, and there was a decline in the size of the customer by 500,000 or 700,000 people. And there were discussions about the analysis. Oh, Netflix is losing revenue and losing customer. But beyond the details, there were two facts Netflix spoke about. It said, one, the war in Russia and Ukraine, paying customers are now running for their life. They are not willing to pay. They are still on the platform. They are still registered members of Netflix, but they've all switched off their subscription because of the issue. They are still customers, but they are not paying customers. Secondly, Netflix said around the world, there are 30 million users who borrow username and passwords. So they access content, they enjoy the content, but they are not paying customers. So Netflix as a business understands that there are people who are there for the freebies and they are upfront about it. But guess what Netflix is doing? Netflix is now going to design a program to target those 30 million free users who are illegally borrowing passwords. I accused my wife the other day that she and her sister are one of those 30 million because they borrow passwords between themselves. I hope nobody in this room is in that category. The same way, if you look at Uber, there are people who, Sheyi and I can get into Uber, but Sheyi pays. I am a user, but I am not a paying customer. So I recap again, the last block in the DNA of a salesperson is identifying those who are willing and capable to pay for your product or service. We have only started on slide number 1. I hope I don't bore you today. Okay, I'm not going to move until I tell you the story of this in practicality. And I think Sheyi maybe knows this story, but I'd like to share with you how I made my first million. And this was in 2003. So those who are in this call that are Nigerians might understand the story or the context, and I'll explain the context. In Nigeria, once you're done with university, you have to serve the government for 1 year compulsory. I know it's done in Israel, it's done in some Balkan countries. I don't know if it's done anywhere else. I think it's done in Rwanda, I'm not sure. But once you're done from university, technical, or you have to serve the government for an entire year. And the way the government scheme runs is they will take you, they will consider your state of origin, the part of the country you're from, where you schooled, and they would send you for 1 year to the other end of the country. So 99.9% of the time, people are sent to locations they've never been to in their life. So on a global scale or continental scale, imagine you were born in Rwanda, you schooled in Ghana, and for 1 year, the African Union is sending you to go and serve the government of Algeria. That 99.9% of the time means that people most likely have never been to this location. And you need to report to like a military base or a military camp where they have to conduct trainings. So there's a tight window between when you find out where you are going and when you have to report. Typically, it's within 1 week. So in 2003, I was going to be sent out for my NYSC camp, and we all gathered at the central office location where the letters were issued out before the days of the internet. You are called in, they check your serial number, they issue you a letter, you open the letter, and then you know where you are going. So a bunch of friends and I were outside sitting, just chatting, waiting for our turn. There was a crowd of students waiting. And this girl was chatting with us, and then her name was called. There was always this anxiety, oh, where would I be sent? Who would I be going with? The whole anticipation. The girl goes in, gets her letter, comes out, As she steps out of the office building, she's bawling, she's crying, she's wailing, she's feverish, she's shaking. You could clearly see that she was distraught. And then we asked her, what's going on? And it says she has been sent to the northeast of Nigeria, which is where you have all the whole conflict at this moment. But then it was not an issue. And she just started wailing, I don't know where this place is. I've not been there. How am I going to get there? I've never traveled out of this city. My parents will be worried. She was basically broken. And because we knew how we consoled with her, there was empathy in it. And while in that conversation, people were asking questions. Well, what if you find others that are willing to go with you? What if we can find you a common transport that can take all of you there? And just giving suggestions that maybe she should wait and ask other students around there and find who else has been sent to that same location so that they can co-ride or co-share together. And that was my seeing the problem. I stopped and said, if this girl is crying, then there are thousands of girls like this around the country today who do not know how to get to these camps around the country. I went and got my letter, got on the public bus, and I was heading home. But you see, the picture of that girl kept on staying in my mind throughout that journey, the fear in her. I wasn't scared. I knew I would find my way, whatever. But it wasn't me. It was really about the burden for how can this girl find her way from the capital city, or the commercial center in Lagos, all the way to the northeast to a state called Bauchi. It kept on my mind, and I said, there has to be a way. Just before I got off the public bus, there was a transport company along the road that just opened with a big sign that says cross country. That was the sign. And while I was in my bus, I looked to the right and I saw this company. And I said to myself, if these guys say they are cross country, then they should be able to take students across the country to the camp where we are going. And that was my light bulb moment. And I said, the way that girl was crying, I am sure she'll be willing to pay a premium for a service where she's in the bus with every other student going to exactly the same location. I got off the bus, walked back to the office, and I said, I wanted to hire buses. The manager said, do you have money? I said, I don't have money. She said, how many buses? I said, a lot. She said, well, then what do you want? I said, I will bring you the people who are going to pay for those seats, but I want a commission of, I think I was asking for 120 Naira then, which is less than $1 today on each of the passengers. And the lady laughed at me and said, you know what, let me take you to the owner of the company. Let's give him a good laugh. The intention was a good laugh. She didn't see the problem. She wasn't there when that girl was crying. All she saw was a young Joseph thinking that he could hire buses and earn a commission. He took me upstairs to the guy, and I asked the guy, the chairman said, what do you want? I said, sir, I need buses. My colleagues and I are going to be traveling across the country in the next 3 days. We want your bus service to put us together in a group, going to the same destination. We will pay you a premium. On that premium, I just want 120 Naira only. The man took a pause, looked at me and said, you know what? I'm going to give you a try. Let's see. I left there. The man thought I was coming to ask for 10 buses or 7 buses. I left there and I called resources. I called my friends. One of my friends, his father used to be in Hollywood. So the guy knew every corner of Nigeria. So he knew what buses were going to go where, what could happen. Another of my friends, his father owns a printing press, Showman. His father owns a printing press. I said, Showman, tonight we need to go to your father's printing press and we need to print out flyers. He said, what for? I said, don't worry about it. I did the text message. We went overnight, sat in his father's office and printed bundles of flyers that just said, direct to NYSC camp with your colleagues at XYZ price. The next day, I returned to the same location of the problem, the same office where I was yesterday, the same place where I experienced that customer in pain. And we didn't say anything, my friends and I. We just handed out the flyers. People walked into the same building, got the same call-up letter, walked out without a worry in their mind. What happened? On one hand, a blank paper that said, you are posted here. On the other hand, a flyer that says, we will take you wherever you are posted. It was like automation. The guys took the flyer and headed straight to the same bus company that I was a day before. Ladies, before 3 p.m., the chairman got my number from the flyer and he said, whatever you are doing, you need to stop. There's a crowd of people in my premises. wanting to buy tickets to everywhere in Nigeria. I don't have enough buses. And I said, but they are paying you cash? He said, yes, they are paying me cash. But I thought it was just a few buses. I am overwhelmed. You know what happened, ladies? Even though we were giving flyers in one location, there were thousands of students on other campuses around the country. There were thousands of students who got their letters the day before where they were posted, and the news just started spreading like wildfire. So a guy who we gave a flyer to saw it and called his other guy. Hey, Wale, where are you posted? Do you know cross country is taking us there? Just go and buy the ticket. And like everything else, there's always a rush. And then they went in. When I returned to the man's office, there were people fighting to buy tickets, fathers fighting to buy a ticket for their daughter being sent to the Northwest because she'll be riding with fellow colleagues, armed escort, and that bus is stopping nowhere but the actual camp. We ran that season for 3 days. I was so distracted, I forgot to plan my own NYSC exit. By the time everyone was done, that's when I realized I had to travel. This man had made so much money. He gave me an entire bus, 2 mobile security men, and a driver to drive me 16 hours to my camp at no cost. Then I sent my friend who's an accountant to look through the numbers. I was in camp when I got the SMS that we made 2.7 million naira in commission in 2003. Because I saw a problem, I had to find a solution, and I knew people were willing to pay for it. Ladies, that money was probably the financial startup that I needed before my first paying job. Now, the last part, I was advised by someone that says, if this made money today, it will make money tomorrow, but people will duplicate it, and you need to tie this company into a contract. So a lawyer friend of mine did a contract. I took it to this man and said, the chairman, and said, thank you for taking a chance on me. Would like to repeat this again for the next 3 years. Can you sign us up as exclusive partners for this scheme? The man had made so much money and reputation. Without thinking twice, he got his lawyer to sign. When the lawyer signed 3 months later, that scheme of taking people from school to camp used to happen only once a year. 3 months later, it became twice a year. So in the next 3 years, we did 6 rounds, and don't ask me how much money we made. That's my story. That's how I started selling. And that's how I made my first million based on this principle. I would stop and ask if anyone has any question while I catch my breath.
Thank you so much, Mojume. And whilst you catch your breath, how come you didn't share this money with me? And here was I informing that I'm your friend.
You don't share the seed, you share the fruit from the seed. That was the seed. All right, let's go. So what is selling? What is selling about? Some people say, oh, I don't like to sell. Oh, I don't have the talent. You must have a certain skill set. Guys, ladies, this is selling. Selling is an exchange. It is the exchange of value between 2 or 3 parties. And value is not money. In the case of the example I gave you, value is peace of mind. In the case of a red carpet couture designer, value is the impression, the looks, the feel. For football fans, value is a sense of association. It's a sense of victory. So it's not money. Money is one element that is exchanged. And the reason we said value was, before money was created, there was trade by barter. So in trade by barter, if you were going to sell your cow for a basket of bread or a basket of corn, you still have to show the cow. You would turn the cow around, you would display the cow. I know those who are farmers will understand. You would tap on the shoulder of the cow, show the muscles. The person who also wants to exchange for bread will cut a bit of bread and give you to taste. So there's, oh, do you like the taste? Do you like the look? So we are always constantly selling. And there are 2 ways of selling. There's the visual and oratory way of selling. So the man who rings the bell in an auction, that man is a salesman with oratory. But the one who shows the look and feel is a salesman by looks. Lamborghini will never do a radio advert. Lamborghini will never do a newspaper advert. But Lamborghini will have the best showroom to show the car. And he's saying, if you like what you see, exchange it for something that you're willing to let go. So everything about life is about an exchange for value. And there are basically 5 processes to selling. I always like to start with the first one, the need. Not the want, not the perceived need, the actual need. So when you open a hairdressing salon, the need is not to make the hair. The need is to look beautiful. I will repeat that. The need is not to make your hair. The need is to look beautiful. So you could make a hair for someone, but not make her look beautiful. Volvo cars, the need is not to commute. The need is for safety. Volvo knows that different companies can build cars that can take you from point A to B. But Volvo tells you the actual need is the safety of those occupants while going from A to B. So it always starts with, what is the need? Sellers have perceived needs. Oh, my product can do X, Y, Z, and W. But the need that matters is the buyer's need. I will repeat that again. The need that matters, the only need that counts is the buyer's need, not the seller's need. That you need to pay your rent, you need to be a successful CEO, it doesn't matter. What matters is the person who's about to give you money, are you meeting that person's needs? Next, we always would explore multiple alternatives to meet that need. If you think your service is the only service that helps them meet that need, you're already going into the sales conversation with a disadvantage. The right salespeople say, listen, your need is to look beautiful. These are the multiple alternatives on the table. Because if you don't do that, the client themselves will do that. Clients are wise. Nobody wants to buy a car today that just walks in and buys a Volvo. They would investigate, they would explore multiple alternatives. Once they do that, then there's the point of assigning the value to your service. What is the value of buying a Lamborghini versus the value of buying a Renault? Great salespeople help the customer to assign value to all the alternatives beyond their own. So if I want to sell to you, I don't just want to tell you only mine. I want to put mine comparatively. So when they say, oh, but Mrs. Long down the road also makes hair. Yes, Mrs. Long makes hair, but we make you beautiful. So you must assign a value, and that value is what people pay for. If you design a product like a mobile phone, it has many features around it. The buyer is only going to assign value to the feature that matters to him or her, not the features you've put in it. This is why when you go to buy a car, they've got different versions. They've got 2.0 liter, 3.0 liter, 8.0 liter. Because on one spectrum is a guy who wants to race like Usain Bolt. To him, the value of that car is the 8-liter engine. On the other side are men like me who just want to drive to work and back. An 8-liter engine, I wouldn't put value to it. So my assigned value will be 0. But if it's a 2-liter, I will assign a higher value to it. The same car. Another typical example, two businesses exist. They both make hair, but one has created a wheelchair access. Customer A is not disabled. To customer A, the wheelchair access value is 0. Doesn't matter to him. He would decide where to go and make his or her hair based on other attributes. But to a wheelchair user, you might not even make the greatest hair or make the most beautiful person. But to that customer will assign a higher value simply because you have created a wheelchair access. Therefore, point 1 and point 3 must tie together. Where your value meets the need is where you find the right customer. Then point number 4 in selling is helping the customer to see the choices, but allow the customer make the choice. And that choice-making decision is where you now assess the satisfaction. And satisfaction should be accessed 30, 60, 90, 3 years, 4 years after, not at the time of the purchase. Because you must have heard about buyer's remorse, which happens like fine wine. Why did I buy that bloody Lamborghini 10 days after? And I will come back to assessing satisfaction because it affects that last line called rinse and repeat, which is doing the process again. If you don't do asset satisfaction, there will be no repeat. Some people call it customer feedback. Some call it asking, how do you feel about the product? Whichever way you look at it, sales is not complete until you close that loop where there is satisfaction on that purchase. So I've talked about the DNA of selling in slide number 1. I'm talking about the process of a sales circle. Needs identification. What are the alternatives in the market? What value do I assign to each of the features? How do I make my final decision? How do I feel post-purchase? Then we repeat again. Okay. Next, for some people who say, oh, I don't sell, I've never sold in my life, or no, selling is not my thing. I want to announce to you, everyone who is alive that is a human on this call, we sell every day. Every single day of our lives, we are selling. Let me give you the example. The need. I need to clothe myself when going out today. We all have that need. Next, what are the alternatives available to me in my wardrobe? You open the wardrobe, you look at all the multiple alternatives: skimpy, sunny dress, leopard skin, cougar. I want to look like sweet 16 today. I want to look like a cougar mama today. Today I will finish them at that wedding. No, yellow is not good enough. We begin that whole process, like I explained in the previous slide, looking at the alternative and attaching value to it. Does this make my cup look like a 40 cup? Does this show my hips? No, this dress doesn't give me those skinny legs, and I want skinny legs. Or if it's a guy, I'm sorry, I'm talking to ladies. Does this bump up my muscle? Does it show my wallet? Does it cover my skin marks? All that is the clothes. We are now assigning value to what meets the need. Then what happens next? We make the choice. It is going to be this sports bra and that cycling short and my blue Nikes and my Louis Vuitton bag. Guess what? We just sold that choice to ourselves every day. And then what happens? We walk out the door. Last stage, assess satisfaction. You want to know how many heads did I turn at that party? Then you say, I made the right choice. Or you step out and the heels break and you're like, oh my God, what kind of choice did I make? Dissatisfaction. So that's one example to show that every day of our lives, we are selling. Selling is really about exchanging value for the choices we make. Next example. Oh, sorry, you went all the way back. Oh, you've seen all my slides. Anyway. The next example is the same with food and when you go to a restaurant. Choices. We want to sell food. Guess who the customer is? Our stomach. What is the need? The stomach, the client has announced, I am hungry. What are the alternatives available? The menu. We've got steak, we've got chicken, we've got burger. And you, the human, begin to tell your stomach, you remember the way that sauce was hot the last time? We need to find something with a flat taste. Oh, your six-pack, your six-figure has to show after the meal. It has to be something slim with carbohydrates. So we are continuously selling to ourselves a variety of options. Then what happened? We make the choice. I want to have shrimp and lobster or chicken and chips or pie. And then there's the satisfaction, which what does your belly or your body feel like thereafter? So these are two examples to show that we are all engaged in sales every day. When you're trying to convince your son on what to wear, or like me in my recent case, trying to convince my daughter on the right book to read, it's all a selling pitch. It is always about selling. The choice of university you want to go to, the choice of boyfriend you want to settle with, you are always selling choices to ourselves. So there is nothing strange or new about sales. Okay? Having established that, who then is a salesperson? So it's fair to say we are all salespeople, right? Who we sell to is different. What we sell is different. How we sell it is different. But every day of our life is around choices and options available around there. So we are all salespeople. That is why there is no degree in BSc in sales. Neither is there any school that confers you with a PhD in sales. There are sales academies, there are training schools, but there is no subject from primary to university called selling. Because, let me announce to you, selling is natural in our DNA. Jesus so, he says, follow me, I will make you fishers of men. He was selling the value of the mission. Follow me. Why should I follow you? The question of why, choices. Well, I know you have one choice to fish, but I will show you how to be fishers of men, marketing the value. So it's in our DNA. Do not be scared about selling, especially as an entrepreneur. I also then want to jump in and say here, ladies, no matter how great the product is, no matter how shitty the product is, if we don't have a strong sales arm, it will all go down the drain. Because whatever is built is only as valuable as those who are willing to pay for it. Tesla wasn't the first electric car in the world, but it was the first car people were willing to pay that value for. Netflix was not the first rental company, but it was the first rental company that people were willing to pay $10 or $5.99 for every month. So ideas are not new. Your businesses are probably being copied as we speak today. The question is, are people willing to pay for it? I've sat down at pitches, I've heard people pitch heaven and earth of a business idea. And I asked them, can you show me your bank account where somebody has been willing to pay for it? And that's where they miss it. So, established, we're all salespeople. I've told you about the DNA. I've told you about the process. I've given you examples of why sales is all around us in what we do. And I've come to the conclusion that everyone on this call who chose to wear the color of top or shirt you're wearing today is a salesperson. Fair enough? So, what should sales focus on? If we've established that we're all salespeople, and there's so many things out there, what is the center of the universe of sales? And that center is the customer. You know, they always say customer is king. Yeah, customer is king, but that's at the end of the story when the customer has paid you. That's when the customer is king. I like to go back and say, everyone who is in sales does not focus on themselves or their company. I really don't care the product I'm selling. My first care is the customer and finding that customer's need. In the example I gave to you, at the time I spotted the problem, I had no product. Do you agree? There was no product, but there was a problem and there was a customer who was willing to pay for that problem. All I did was go out and find the right solution for that problem. My Igbo boys from the East, they're a part of Nigeria, those guys sell parts in the shop or spare parts for vehicles or for clothes. These boys have a technique that answers to this question. When you walk into the market, they know you've walked into the market with money in your pocket. And then they come to you. The first thing they say is, Oga, what do you need? Oga, what do you want? Sir or boss, what do you need? At the time of asking that question, what they have in their store doesn't matter. They don't care. All they want to hear from you is what you need. And the minute you say, I am looking to buy a crocodile, the guy might be selling soap in his shop. Guess what? He says to you, I have it. Why? His mind is tuned into the customer as the center of his universe. And at that point, the product in the shelf doesn't matter. It is the same ideology for what should a salesperson focus on. Even you as an entrepreneur building a business, what should you focus on? The focus should be your customer. Listen to that customer. 2 big ears are always good. Listen to that customer. Design your product for that customer. Anyone who is a tailor making dresses, you don't just see a customer walking and say, I'm going to make you a ball gown. You have to design for the person's curves, size of chest, size of arm. So your product must be designed for that customer. Most importantly, the customer is not coming to you just because they have spare time. It's because they have pain, not money, but pain. Hence, in defining your customer, you don't define your customer by what they can pay. You define them by what is their pain. I will rephrase that. You don't define your customer by what they can pay. but you define them by what is their pain. Because the greater the pain, they will find the money to pay for it. Lastly, like every other business, listen to your customer. Does not mean the customer is always right. I don't believe in that. Does not mean you should take everything the customer says, but I'll be damned if I don't listen. The guy I work for, he has this theory of listening to the customer. It's called the buzzing bee. He said, in a beehive, if only one bee is buzzing, nothing would happen in the beehive. There will be no attack, there will be no disruption, things will go on as usual. But the minute one bee begins to buzz, 2 other bees join and buzz, 4 other bees join and buzz, that is a signal that is a growing problem. So he says, I listen to customer, but I'm only looking for the consistent buzz and how it repeats itself amongst my customer. People have always been complaining about taxi ride service around the world, but only one person was listening to that buzz all over, and that birthed Uber. As a business owner, within the cluster of customer feedback, your job is to distill what is this person saying, and does that saying repeat itself amongst many other people? That then is your use case example. A use case example is based on the reality of many customers, the same thing happening to them over and over again. That's why it is important to listen. Test with your customer. Like startups, always wanting to build new stuff. I'm a fintech entrepreneur. I'm a edtech entrepreneur. All great. When they test with people who like them or know them or doing them a favor, not people willing to pay for it. But because the customer is only a paying customer, when you build, make sure you test with a paying customer. How do you test with a paying customer? I have a new recipe for a cake. I want to charge $70 for this cake. I like your feedback for it. You will pay me $70 for the cake. After your feedback, I will give you a 50% off. That is testing with the customer. That customer has doled out cash to test. That customer will give you the frank feedback. You can build for that customer who is willing to pay to test your idea. If the person is not paying, do not test with them. Then redesign for. It's the same thing when you are changing either your pricing policy or the way you market your product. It has to be for those who have paid for the old version. So version 2.0 is always an alteration after testing and listening to the customer that used version 1.0. Next point, at the heart of selling is the value as defined by the customer. I cannot repeat this over and over again. It's really like the nucleus of successful selling. What is the value as defined by the user, by the customer, not by you? You might see the greatest value on earth for your product, which is great, but what is the value as defined by the user? And that's where you get to the sweet spot. Then lastly, sales should focus on reviewing with the customer. So if you hope, and I hope you keep data, we will come to talk about in future down the line, the power of data. But if you have data and you know the person who bought your first pair of shoes that you manufactured, or the person who attended your first training session that you delivered and paid for, it would be great to always create time in sales to go back and review with. Questions like, if there was a universe without limitation, what would you like to see in a version 2.0? If that person paid for version 1.0, we should take that person's feedback as key. Now, after I have said, focus on the customer, the bottom line is key. In sales, your only true customer is the paying customer, not the promising customer. There are promising customers, I will buy, I will buy. There are user customers who use but do not pay. The true customer is the paying customer. Some of you here might be involved in service. You might be making or selling clothes to a family. So the question is, if you're selling clothes to a family and they have a son called Matthew, and Matthew's 4.5 years old, is Matthew the customer being the end user, or are his parents the customer being the paying customer? The answer is the question is self-explanatory. The paying person is the true customer because the payer dictates the feeling of the user. Machi probably doesn't have a choice if it's blue or yellow shoes. But if the mom says the shoes look nice, then the mom is the paying customer. So please remember, there are user customers and there are paying customers. You design with, review with the paying customer. And if opportunity arises to design and review with the end user, that is great. But remember, the end user did not exchange any value. Back to slide number 1. It is about an exchange of value. If that user didn't own the value, the user is not exchanging the value, then you cannot design for that user in most cases. And of course, there are exceptions to all of this. Good enough? I'm going to pause, ask for questions. Anyone who wants to talk about what we've done so far, questions. I think there's a Q&A, one question up, I'm not sure.
Okay, so I think we can take 2 people to ask questions. So if you want to ask questions, just raise up your hand and then we would allow you to speak. Raise up your hand and then we'll allow you to speak. Although there's a question in the Q&A box already, which is...
Let's go for that one.
All right, so I mean, it's bordering around sales, the difference between sales and marketing. You know, she's saying that is marketing not the concept that begins with starting with the problem and ends with satisfying the customer's needs. So please clarify what's the difference between sales and marketing.
All right, my answer will be back to the first slide, an exchange for value. In the entire marketing universe, there is no exchange. It is a one-way street. No party is paying any price for anything. When you see an ad, when you hear about product feature benefits, as long as there is no exchange, it is not sales. Marketing is all you do to enable that exchange, but it is not the exchange in itself. The difference between marketing and sales: marketing is one person speaking about all he can do or gathering feedback, but there are no value exchanges. In sales, there is a value exchange, either money for service or a smile for product, but there must be an exchange. That is what defines selling. Hence, if you do a road show, the marketing person, when you ask the person, how did the road show go? She will say, wow, 6 million people turned up. Great event. We got fantastic feedback. They said they loved the color of our tent. Davido performed. Everyone was excited. Look at the picture. Was there any exchange? No. If you ask the sales director, how did the road show go? How much did you sell? How many new customers did we acquire by selling? How many return customers came who had bought before and are now buying again? So I hope that clarifies it. There's this notion in Nigeria, the banks that say we're all marketing execs. We're doing marketing. Those who don't understand sales or those who are scared of sales call all that marketing. The principle, if there is no exchange of value between 2 or more parties, that's marketing. Once that exchange happens in that environment, that's sales. And I rather sell than market because marketing is fluffy. It's fluffy. People love it. Oh, I like it. I love your product. This is my feedback. Blah, blah, blah. Can you pay me $2 for it? Let me check my bank account. And people are not willing to ask those tough questions. You like it. Are you willing to exchange value for it? So I hope that answers the question. Marketing is all you do in the enabling environment to play with mind and emotion to get them ready for that sales conversation. Sales is taking all of that and making sure that we are reaching across the aisle and exchanging product for value or service for value.
Thank you so much, Joseph. So we have Blessing who's raised up her hand. I'm going to allow you to talk and then, so Blessing, please unmute your mic and you can speak.
Sorry, ma, that was a mistake. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
All right, then that's fine. All right. So we have another question asking about, how do you determine the price that the customer is willing to pay? You know, that yes, they don't want to overprice and underprice. How do you identify? Even though there's another session that we're having in 2 weeks that talks about pricing, right? And leveraging data to, arrive at those pricing decisions. But maybe you just want to talk about that.
I anticipated this question about a couple of days ago. I said to myself that there's no way talking about sales that people won't ask the question of pricing. And because you're talking to entrepreneurs, it makes absolute sense. But as Sheyi said, it's a whole long session to talk about a pricing strategy for a product. And pricing for product is different from pricing from strategy. But as I always say, the best way to know your price is to throw out test prices, across a certain band and find a midpoint. That's the simplest in the case of a standard entrepreneurial business. In a multinational, they do this concept called from the full to the empty. So they will fully load the system. Let's take a car, for example. The manufacturers will say, how much will it cost me to put a bulletproof on the car? $10. Power windows, $5. Automatic gear, $3. 16-inch rim. They put all the cost per feature. And then they say, what is the markup per feature based on the severity of need? So a bulletproof car in Germany, there's not much. But a bulletproof car in Colombia where there's drugs, you can add a premium to that. So they say, well, if bulletproof costs us 10, we're going to put a premium of 40% on that. And they do that math for each of the feature to arrive at the full price of the premium bouquet. The next thing they do is what you call the process of less. So they say, this is the premium. But if I remove bulletproof, remove automatic window, remove 18-ring steering, I can bring the price down to this. And so they work backwards, but it's a whole big topic. I'm just giving you that as an example on a product. For a service, I like to give this example about a service. When I was thinking about pricing, my mom used to give me this example. She says, my son, if you had 2 taps and one tap, when you open it, it gushes out water with force, a huge gush, but it's not consistent. So it will gush once in a while. She says, tap number B, when you open it, it only comes out in trickles, but the trickle is consistent. My mom says, if you put 2 stones or 2 rocks under these 2 taps and come back in 50 years, guess which of these taps would have made a dent on the rock? Apparently, is the one with the consistent drops. When you apply that to pricing, in Africa, we are quick to go with this pay for everything as once pricing. But some smart businesses have changed the model to a trickling model. DSTV does not want you to pay for your bouquet 1 year in advance. They want you to pay every month. Same with Netflix. Same with Uber that you pay per ride. Pharmaceutical companies are no longer making drugs to cure you. They make drugs to manage you. So they don't want you to pay $70,000 to take a pill and then you are healed. They want you to pay $10 every month for the rest of your life. That pricing is the way that, if you can, is the preferred way to design your product, because you tie in that customer for longer. You guarantee your cash flow for longer. That customer is bonded to you beyond just that gush. The biggest problem in Africa, which I'll talk about in my other slide, is that business model runs 100% on trust. So you go back to the original pricing, you want the person to pay you full at once and walk away. Guess what? For those of you, I guess, in South Africa and Europe, you could walk into a car shop, put down $200 and take a car, and they want it in trickles, because business is not stagnant. Business is over time, it's continuing. So they want you over time. It might not answer your question, but pricing is a whole MBA class on its own. And again, it depends on the product or the service or the market. But as I say, the easiest way is test prices. Those who are willing to pay will be frank to tell you how much they are willing to pay. When they tell you how much they are willing to pay, you backtrack to your cost, think about your margins. You always want to make double-digit margins of your cost. And if that meets the price, then you're in and around the right bracket. So I'm sorry if it doesn't answer the question, but it is complex.
Okay, thank you. So we'll take the last, so we'll take Inter B, and after that, please let's take all the questions after he's finished his session so that we can maximize that time. So Inter B, I'm going to allow you to speak. Let us know where you're calling from and then ask a question.
Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I'm from South Africa. My name is Tabi Singh. I just want to ask if I'm offering a service, then I advertise that I'm going to serve something that I'm not serving currently. I know I'll serve that in future. Is it okay to advertise that such a thing, or is it wrong?
Please, could you take the question again? I had a small break. You were saying you were going to advertise what again? Sorry.
Okay. If I'm advertising a service, maybe I'm saying
Yes.
I know I'm going to make that service, but currently I don't serve that thing. So is it okay to include that service into my advertisement, or I should include it later?
Okay, so it's a future service. So you are saying,
Yes.
can I advertise a current service and a future service?
Yes. Yes.
All right, so Shay, if you heard question, if I heard the question right, you want to make an advert. Part of the advert wants to advertise today's service, and you're asking, can I include a future service?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Ntabi, let me answer your question with a scenario. When last did you go to a movie cinema?
Excuse? Can you please repeat?
When last did you go to watch a movie in the cinema?
In February on my birthday.
I said, when last did you watch a movie in a cinema?
On my birthday on 26th of February, 2022.
February.
Okay, good. So you've been to a cinema.
Yes.
So the answer is this. Sorry, Shay?
Yeah, go ahead. No.
I don't know if it's my network, but I think I heard her say the last time was in 2022.
Yes.
In February.
Yes.
Okay, so Tabi, this is my answer. When you go to a cinema, you have paid 20 rands to watch a movie. You enter the cinema hall, you sit down, you're about to watch the movie. Guess what they show you on the screen? They show you the future movies that are coming soon, right?
Yes.
They show you a preview and tell you will be in the theaters 5th of May, 2022. You know why they do that? They don't only want your money from today, they want to build your anticipation for you to come back in June to watch that coming soon. So my answer to you is yes. You can do a flyer that says, this is what I'm doing today, this is what I'll be doing tomorrow. But there's a risk. The risk is what you put out in the public space, you will be held accountable for it. So you cannot say, coming soon, I will be making fingernails that can make you fly. With that promise must come a time. So you might have to say, 1st of January, we'll be launching fingernails that make you fly. Just like in the movie theater, they tell you coming to your theaters in May, Lion King version 4. So as I would say, it is smart. The answer is yes. Let me also tell you why it is smart. Your flyers might not catch your customers based on your today's service, but they might keep you in mind based on your tomorrow's promise. The business I work for today has the same problem. The product we're selling now, everybody's doing it. But the product we're designing for tomorrow is so unique that if we don't catch people today, by the time that product is ready, the size of the market might have diffused or disappeared. So my answer to you, absolutely yes. But remember, people would hold you to that declaration. Boeing once said they were launching an airplane in 2019. They made a lot of noise, coming soon. People booked orders. That plane did not fly till 2022 or so. Trust, they lost trust. So there's a risk, but the answer is yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Highly appreciate.
Thank you. Okay, so let's jump on to the next slide, right?
Yes, please.
All right. So there's also then one thing about selling, which is a bit of a task, mental task that people don't like to do. And this is what differentiates great selling and sales management. And that difference is in metrics, is in what you measure. There is no organization, whatever business you are into, if you don't have measurements, you will fail. Can you imagine going to a gas station to buy petrol and there is no meter to measure the quantities sold? Could you imagine going to the market to buy grain or salt and there is no measurement on quantity purchased into the storehouse and quantity sold? So measurement is the standard international unit that helps you keep an eye on anything that is important to you, sales inclusive. So one of the cardinal DNA or anatomy of sales is the ability to measure and plan. Peter says, what you can't improve what you don't measure. Absolutely. And if the reason for opening shop, for starting a business is growth, what is growth? Growth is the ability to move from point A to point B and measuring that movement. That is growth. And growth in any business is measured by revenue. Revenue is derived from sales. So therefore, an anatomy of anybody selling or doing business is to have the ability to measure where you were, numbers-wise, where you are by the close of business today, and where you want to be tomorrow in sales. So any business has to measure. Everything I have said about the DNA of sales matters for nothing if you are not measuring it. Okay? Then the question is, okay, Joe, I hear you. I want to measure. What should I measure? In sales, what do we measure? If I asked you that question, everybody would say money. How much money do we have in the bank account at the close of business today? Question is, does that money matter if it is not against the target? How much you receive in sales doesn't matter if it is not compared to what you desired to meet your cost of running your business. So the first beginning of sales is, what is my target? You must have heard this number, break even. What is a break even? So how much did it cost you to run your business this month? How much is amortization for your assets? That gives you your total number of your business debt. Might be 7,000 rands. For you to sleep well at the end of the month, you need to bring over 7,000 rands. Therefore, there must be a target set for 15,000 rands at a 55% gross profit. And that's the number you are measuring every day. 15,000 divided by 20 business days for the 20 days you open the shop. That tells you how much needs to be in the bank every end of the day. And that's how you make a successful business, where you link sales to the long-term effect of your business. And the slide you see there is the same. It has the people who are selling. The red line is set before the beginning of the month. So the target line is always ahead of reality. So in January, they wanted to make 1,200. They probably set that target 2 months before. And now you are performing against target and you are saying this salesperson did well, that salesperson didn't do well. By the way, measuring and planning is the way you know your most profitable business days. Some of you run a business that is cyclic. Might be because of where your business is located, that you know that school closes on Thursday at 2 p.m. So the students are able to come into the shop to buy more things than any other day of the week. Only by measuring this over many weeks will you see that trend that helps you to plan your business? For example, in Nigeria, the gas stations on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, they know that they must always restock a day before the redeem camp every month. So the sales manager needs to know that that is the best time to do a price increase on its product. And the lowest period will be the period where people are not traveling, where he can then do discount sales. Ladies, I want to beg you one more time. If you cannot measure, please don't start a business. If you cannot hold yourself to account on money, not money you spend, but hold yourself to how much do you want to bring in. And the next slide will give you a bit more of the metrics. But great salespeople always measure. They measure the past against the present, against the future. That's all sales managers do. But let's go to what do I need to measure as a salesperson, you might ask me. These are the 4 things I think anyone who is selling or owns a business where people are walking in and buying, or you're doing a software business, these are the 4 metrics you need to master. The first is quantity. Quantity refers to the number of paying customers at your till. Marketing will tell you quantity is the number of people who walk into your shop. But like in Nigeria, where 90% of them are window shoppers, that walking number means absolutely nothing for a salesman. It is the number of times the register clicks, open, close, open, close. That is the quantity that matters. If you run a business, you need to have eyes on my buying customer quantities. Some people call it number of transactions. How many transactions did I do last week, this week, next week? The second box, of course, is volume. We don't just want 20 people to buy, we want 20 people to buy 50 items. And therefore, when you build a business, what you call your core product and your support product is based on this volume ideology, portfolio, the basket of product. If you sell hair product, it runs parallel to skin product because the person who buys hair product needs skin product. So if you sell both together, your portfolio is bigger, you sell more. Profitable salespeople sells to a good number of people, sells the right volume to those number of people. The third matrix is the common matrix, revenue. But please note, in revenue, it's one thing to just look into the cash and say, we sold 50 grand. It is better to say, we sold 50 grand of product A, B, and C to 10, 15, 20 people. So what I just did was relate criteria 1, 2, and 3. So let me take it again. Sheyi owns a hair salon. End of business day. How much did we sell? Sheyi sees 50,000 pounds. Sheyi begins to say, oh, praise the Lord, we've done great. But Sheyi says, where did the 50,000 pounds come from? Oh, we sold Brazilian hair extensions. All the money came from Brazilian hair extension, one product. But Sheyi's shop has 50 products. Would you call that a good day? No, because your entire day is hinged on one product versus 50 that you've invested in. Worse off, the sales girl now tells Sheyi, oh, it is this woman that came to buy all the hair product that gave us 50 grand. So even though 50,000 pounds is great, that day came from selling 1 out of 50 and from one customer only. Would you call that a successful sales day? No, I don't think so. But if Sheyi in version number 2 walks in and says 50,000 in cash, how did we sell? Sheyi says, what's the volume across the product line? Oh, we sold 15 out of our 50 products, and it was bought by 25 different customers. Then Sheyi says, then we had a great sales day. The last one, which is the one I like you guys to remember, because in the previous slide, we said customer is at the center. It is of all your sales, how many came from a return customer? In the businesses I've worked for, that somebody comes back the second time, that's gold. Because first time can be a fluke. But your return customer, so you always have to ask yourself, of the 30 people who bought from me, how many of them are returning? How do you know? They have unique IDs, could be taking their phone number when they purchase, or the addresses where you deliver to. You can run a simple Excel sheet that can help you count the number of unique times. And then you can say, 80% of my sales are return customers. Investors like that, because return customers have what you call a stick rate. They are sticky, they are stuck onto you. It is difficult for them to separate from you. If they come back, spend more money, buy so many products, and bring people back to you, they are your perfect VIP gold customer. And in sales, these are the 4 metrics that make you successful. It's always about balancing each and every one. Okay? The last thing I want to say, when you look at sales and you look at the performance any day, any week, it is the result at a particular point in time. But that result is a false result because it doesn't tell you the story of your business. So every story of greatness unfolds over time. For non-salespeople, this is a challenging task, particularly for CEOs who are more concerned, startup entrepreneurs, about building a business. But if you're able to invest and say, what is my sales story over the last 6 months? Then ask, what would it be like over the next 2 months? And play around with that. You begin to tell yourself if you're on the path to greatness, path to mediocrity, or you're on your way out of business. The story always reveals itself over time, if you look. So today might be a great day for quantity, but is that a trend over 5 years? So if anyone is in this call, you've ever sat in a management meeting or a sales review meeting, the right sales manager will congratulate you for having a great day, but he always wants to look at trend. In sales, it's all about the trend. So if the guy down the road comes to your store to buy toothpaste and he buys 60,000 rands worth of toothpaste, but you are not keeping track that he hasn't come back to you in the last 9 months, then you should be worried. So it's always about rinse, repeat, return. That coming back, increasing volume, increasing revenue, increasing the quantity of people that walk through the door. That's how you make a great business. Okay? So measurement is part of the anatomy of sales. What you measure, what you don't measure, you cannot manage. Not all of us here, we know the shoe sizes of our children. Why do we keep that in our mind? So that when we go to the store the next time, we buy the right bigger size. Because we always have to measure. Okay? Let's go to the next slide. I want to give us a task, and Sheyi would have to help us manage this task. I tell you the story. I tell you to think about your answer, and Sheyi will open the mic for 3 people to give us the answer. This is the story. The Royal British Air Force was involved in a bombing campaign over Germany in World War II. They used these planes called the Air Force Bomber. These airplanes flew over Germany, dropped bombs, did the damage, and came back. But they discovered that many of their planes were being shot down and pilots were being captured in the war and they were not returning home. So they got a group of people together to say, listen, what do we need to do to ensure that our planes execute the mission in Germany and come back safely? And then they presented them this sample aircraft. That this is an aircraft that just did a mission raid and has returned home. And this aircraft was then put on display for the team to decide, what do we need to do to this aircraft to ensure that they're not shooting it down and is returning to base? Every red dot you see are bullet holes that the Germans fired on that plane. My question to you, sales entrepreneurs, if you were in that room and you were part of this team to devise a solution for this aircraft to make sure that they are not shot out in the sky and they don't explode and they don't capture the pilot, based on this reality, what would you recommend? I'm going to wait, give you 2-3 minutes to think about it.
Just
You're part
can
of
you
this
just
strategy.
take it again so that for those who did not hear you, they can.
Okay. I will take it again. In World War II, the British Royal Air Force were sending aircraft to over Germany to bomb Germany. The picture you see is the picture of the type of aircraft that they were sending to Germany. Anytime these aircraft are flying over Germany, the German army opens fire on them and shoots as many as possible out of the sky. So the aircraft will crash, they will arrest the pilot, becomes the prisoner. So the British army then said, we need to find a way to make sure that our aircraft are returning to us after the mission, to make sure that they are not being shot at by Germans or that they even survive when the Germans shoot at them. While they were having the meeting, this particular aircraft returned from its mission, and the red dots are all the holes of the German army bullets tearing through the plane. You are now part of that team sitting at the table, designing and asking yourself, what do we need to do to our aircraft to make them survive the German firepower? I want you to look at this picture, think about it, and maybe write down a short note. What recommendations would you give to help the British Army survive the German attack when they fly over Germany?
So ladies, we want you to raise up your hand and answer the question. Make an attempt, right?
Just think about it, because that's your business. Every day you are making strategic decisions, there's problems. This is a problem. I want you to think about it, and I'll tell you how it relates. There's no right or wrong answer. Remember, the red dots are all the bullet holes that the Germans have fired on this aircraft. Yes.
Okay, so we have 3 people who want to speak, and then we'll take the first 2-3 responses in the chat room. Alucia, please go ahead and speak.
Hi, so based on this image, it looked like the Germans targeted the body mostly because that's where most of the bullet holes are. And then they targeted the wings and the tail, which are the parts that keep the aircraft buoyant. So the design would have to focus both on the body, the wings and the tail, either to make it bulletproof or so that the Germans would miss those areas that would make the plane crash.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alessia. Ethel, you're next. Ethel, please unmute your mic and speak.
Good evening, sir. Thank you very much. My answer is almost the same with hers. Like, first of all, we'll go back to our drawing board to find out the materials that we use to make the plane, the aircraft to start with. Then we'll look for, just like she said, bulletproof, a much stronger, materials, which we could use to make all this area, in fact, the entire aircraft, not just only the portions which the bullets, because the bullets could also hit the other parts, like the fans and all that. So what I would suggest is we'll look for a stronger, a bulletproof material that we can use to make the entire aircraft, including the fans, everything in totality. Thank you.
Excellent.
All right.
Thank you. Do you have any other opinion?
Yeah, we do, but we may not be able to. So we'll just take one more person. Adefunke, please unmute your mic and speak.
In my own suggestion, is everybody hearing?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I would suggest, if I were to be on the team, looking at the aircraft, there are places that bullets didn't penetrate. Or first of all, run a check on those materials used in those areas. If there is anything we could do to improve on those things and maybe use them for the total aircraft. That's what I'll first of all look at. what exactly did we do wrong? Then if we're going to change the type of materials used, if there's need to change or need to improve on those parts of the aircraft that bullets were not able to penetrate before thinking of bulletproof.
All right. Thank you so
you.
much. Let me just acknowledge a number of the comments that came in from the chat box. Someone says, Igboyemi says, increase the speed of the aircraft. SMA says, self-driven, no human. Tumisang says she'll place the bombs around the areas. I'm not sure I understand that. Oh yeah, okay, she will place the bombs around the areas where the plane is being shot the most. So as they're shooting at the bomb, or you can blow up the aircraft.
Honestly.
All right. So someone talked about bulletproof. A lot of people talked about bulletproof. So someone says design a drone instead of a plane. So Alosia says train the pilots to dodge bullets. I don't know how that will happen. A number of GoFound says redesign the aircraft.
Yes.
Someone talked about, Lufumlaya talked about creating distractions on the target areas. I don't know, these ladies are just, so yeah, are you sure it should not be in defense, right?
Exactly, we should just ship them into the Defense Forces for Africa.
So someone says long-range cameras should be installed. I'm actually scared of these ladies, right? As someone says, don't go to Germany. All right, we need to move on.
Right.
Our time is
okay.
fast.
Girls, the reason for this analogy is based on the previous slide called focus. And let's go back to focus. There's a snippet of the answer in all you said, but it's a war situation. They don't have excess materials to bulletproof the entire thing. But there was one vital information. The image you are looking at, I said, was an aircraft that successfully returned back to base. Therefore, every bullet hole you see is not detrimental to the ability of the flight to come back. So the places where you see the bullet hole, in actual fact, do not require any change whatsoever, because this picture shows that it has been tested that the aircraft can survive in those patches where it has been shot. The reverse is the focus, that you need to reinforce those untested parts of the aircraft, because if the red dots show where has been shot and no accidents, therefore the white part means places that could be shot that will be detrimental to the plane. So one person started by looking and saying, let us analyze the other areas. That's very correct. Everywhere else is the critical hotspot, around the wings, around here, and here, which usually contains the fuel for the aircraft. The essence of this analogy is back to the point of focusing on sales. The top number, sales revenue, how much did I sell? In itself does not tell any story, does not help you answer how to improve your business. You have to filter down a couple of stages to see the story behind the story. And the essence of this exercise was, what comes to you first in your face is many times not always the true story in sales. For example, when you ask someone, what's the problem? Oh, the machine is not just working. I want to return it. Many times, that's not the problem. It's the underlying problem. You made a hair for a lady. She likes it. She goes home. And she comes back the next day. I don't like the hair. You rip me off. That's not the problem. Maybe the problem is her husband or her boyfriend didn't compliment her or didn't like the color. So the same way with this analogy, in sales, there's what is said and there is what is meant to be said. A salesperson has to understand the difference. And that leads me to, what are the best types of sales? Who are the best types of salespeople? In my book, in Leading People, I look for the 6 things in anybody that is selling. A great sale or the best salesman is the one when the customer comes back unprompted. So not because of a flyer, not because of a discount, not because you did extra marketing, not because you're doing one buy one, get one free, no promo, but the customer comes back unprompted. Generic return customer. Great salespeople, the customer brings other buying customers unprompted. It's key there. He didn't bring just any customer. He brings or she brings a buying customer unprompted. The person who walks through your business door says, make this hair for my sis, and I know she will pay for it because I've been coming here. That customer is what you call the golden ticket customer, unprompted. The third best is the customer spends more money each time they come unprompted. You see this in fashion business when a guy comes in and shops and then he asks, what are the new things you have? He's saying, I have money to spend. What is the new thing? What else can I buy in your store? Or you go into a clothing shop, clearly called a men's shop. The man comes and has bought all and he's saying, do you have women's segment? Do you have children's segment? That's that type of third customer. He's so satisfied in meeting his current need, he's willing to exchange value for a need that you are not even providing. 4, customers who are willing to try new things first, especially when they are willing to pay to try new things. Guess what? If Apple says we are releasing iPhone 37 tomorrow, and they say start depositing from tonight, there are customers who will pay. Even they haven't seen anything, they will pay in advance. Those are great salespeople. Lastly, they pay you in advance for a service rendered or a product delivered. That means the product hasn't come. Usually this happens in real estate. You're selling only a vision, like the lady in South Africa said. And imagine people say, well, I will wait. I'll wait for 1st of September. One company does this very well, PlayStation, Sony, PS5. Some people are paid for PS5 1 year before they even saw the design. Lamborghini, Rolls-Royce, they take orders in advance. If they just say, you know what, we're designing a car for 2025, there are some customers that will say, here, take my money from me. Even if I die, just make sure you have it. Then lastly, there are customers who offer feedback unprompted. These are the customers where you don't have a feedback form, you don't have a satisfaction survey, but they are willing to give it to you, both positive and negative. Remember, these are customers who have already paid. The last line around selling, and I think I mentioned it to the South African lady about her future product. The most important thing we all sell is trust. Forget the product. If you say, Joe, what has made you successful in sales is that I sell trust first before the product. Trust that I understand what you need. Trust that I'm telling you my product like any other product that is available out there. Trust that I'm aligning my value to your need. And trust that when you exchange that product for the need, there is going to be value transfer. People buy trust first. We all know great companies that have crashed because of a lack of trust. Boeing is the example with all the air crash. Facebook is the example with selling people's data. Hotels have gone into ruin because they installed hidden camera over people's room and taking naked pictures of people. They could have the best bed, the best location, the best food, best customer service, but they lost trust. Once trust is lost, you cannot regain it. So the last big anatomy of sale I want to tell you is sell trust first. And trust costs money. As the money. If I want to trust you and I put my money down, I should be sure that I can trust you that if the service is not at par, my money will be returned. So ladies, please, I want to beg you, in this continent of Africa where we are, there is a low threshold of trust. That's why nobody will give you a car to pay over 8 years. That's why credit cards are not a big deal in Africa, because our DNA have been told to think short term. It is not our fault. Many years ago, our great-grandparents will have 7 kids and 6 of them will die before the age of 2. How do you want to tell that woman to have a savings account for that child's university? It's not possible. We have political parties and elections every 4 years. We cannot think beyond 4-year gap because we don't know what is happening. That has affected our trust level, that online businesses are struggling in Africa today because of trust. In Europe, if the product lands, it's not to my taste. I do one email, put it back into free shipping. I get my money in 3 days. No stories asked. Be that business that it will cost you to build trust, but don't sell your trust because you want to sell product. That's the first failure in sales. Trust first. Okay? Last slide. So he said, oh, Joseph is the most greatest salesman. He's this, he's that. I want to tell you guys, again, sorry for using man. I know I'm talking to women. But the greatest salesman is not a showman. Maybe some of you might end up hiring salespeople in the future. Stay away from the showman. The showman is like abracadabra. He's magic. He's showing you one hand, he's flipping you behind the back. Any disposition of a salesman that looks like a show, stay away from it. If you want to go into the store, you want to hire, or you want to be a salesperson, remove all the fluff, remove all the loud color, all the pigeons in the air. The greatest salesman is never a showman. How do you know greatest salespeople? A big heart, big ears, and a closed mouth. If you can test, if you can be that person, really have the heart for the problem and listen beyond the words that are being told, because there's a greater story behind the words, and keep the mouth closed. Again, you have to listen twice as much as you speak. That is why God blessed us with 2 ears and 1 mouth. The greatest salesmen are listeners. They are listeners. They listen, they question, they ask. Why? What does it mean to you? How do you think it will turn out? What do you desire? How does that meet your need? Questioning is the art of selling, not showmanship. And that is my last slide. That to be great in salesman, it's not the showman. Shay, I'm done. Question.
Wow, you said the session was loaded, and indeed it has been loaded. Thank you so much, Joseph. I mean, this has been, I was very particular about not getting anyone to come and talk about sales, and this is the 3rd cohort that we're running, and we've not had any anatomy of sales session, particularly because very few people understand sales, and you have shown, right, with this session that the wait was worth it. Thank you so much for such a brilliant session. Everyone, even me, I think I do need to listen to this session more than once. Well, I will take 2 questions. And because we really run out of time, because Joseph, you were asking me what you'll be saying for 90 minutes. This is the first time that we are going beyond our 90 minutes. Do you have any questions? Okwaluwa, do you want to speak? Okwaluwa.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi.
Oh, I'm shy right now. Okay. I wanted to ask that for me, I make adire, so I work with fabrics, t-shirts and all that. But for the past few months, I've been having difficulty with sales, and it's when you explain the whole thing, what sales is all about. I got some eye-opening statement, but I just wanted to ask that for someone like me who actually has to do something before the audience can, or before my target audience can see it, how do I listen to them, or how do I know what their choice is, what their desire, what their need is exactly, and work with it? So I know that the need of my target audience is to be beautiful. Before, I always think I used to wear clothes, or but with what you said, I realized that it's for them to look classy, trendy, get somewhere, and they'll be like, oh wow, who made that adire for you? Or wow, you look so beautiful in that adire. But how do I know that, okay, this is what they want? Or is it adire t-shirt they want more, or adire shirt, or this particular design? Because you find out that some people don't like some colors, and it's kind of personal. Like you see someone that says, I don't like black, I don't like red, but you don't know if it is the red one that will sell more. So I have to like do it first.
Yeah.
And I hope you get what I'm saying, sir.
Sorry, Joseph, please hold on. Let's take all the questions.
I get exactly what you're saying.
Okay. I was thinking, let's take all the questions, another question so that you can stop.
Thank you very much.
All right. May, I'm going to allow you to speak now. Please unmute. Okay.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's really been a brilliant session. I joined quite late because I had network issues, but this last part I got was really, really very great. I heard things I've never heard before, and I thought I'd been doing sales. I wanted to ask, you said that the way to identify a great salesperson is somebody with a big heart. You must shut your mouth, and you must listen. So I'm wondering how you want to do sales with a closed mouth, or maybe I'm not getting the angle. That's my question.
Okay.
So yes, please answer the two questions and then.
Yes. Okay. So Akme, I understand the dilemma you are in. I once consulted for a restaurant and a bakery business, and this was the same product where you have to produce an item and put it out in the market, hoping that it will sell. The problem is you've already invested your cash in it. How do you know if it sells? Okay, my suggestion to you is this. You have to follow the trend, not the individual customer. The thing about fashion is there is always seasons and things that are in vogue. Black is in vogue, purple is in vogue, in a direct flowers or animal print is in vogue. What I will ask you to do in sales is prove what is in vogue to the client, and the client will most likely buy. So let me give an example. I'm about doing the kitchen in my house, and the guy who is doing the countertop for me, I always wanted quartz. Quartz was what was in my head. But the guy, when he first came to consult, he says, Joe, quartz is popular, but the new trend is ceramic. And then he opened Instagram and started showing me the prominent kitchen manufacturers in Ireland and UK and the works they've done in the last 3 months. And every single one of them were ceramic designs. Because he has what you call anchored his suggestion on a trend that is beyond him or myself, I immediately believed him. So what I want to advise you is, if you know you want to follow a certain style or trend, anchor your argument or your pitch to what is out there as being in vogue at the moment. This is what you talked about when I talked about the steps, when I talked about the alternatives in the market, showing the client that, look, this is where the market is moving to now. The market is moving to black because we are getting into rainy season because it's dark colors. In Europe, that happens a lot. In the dark times, it's darker colors. In summer times, it's flowery colors. Your business does not exist in isolation. It exists in a universe of many things going on. You need to bring that universal reality to your people and hoping that the customer can understand, therefore, that this lady is recommending animal print because that seems to be the trending topic. I give you a second example. I used to make agbadas a lot. Not a lot, sometimes. My tailor then came with this idea of putting a certain garment under the agbada, and I felt it was foolish. But guess what? He then showed me P-Square. There was a video P-Square did this a few years ago. They were the first that started using counter materials under the agbada like you have in your suits. Sorry for those who are non-Nigerians. But when he showed me that trend and said, look, this is the way it is going, I kind of agreed. So I don't know if that answers your question, but I would say tag your design against trends and keep an eye on the trends. Lastly, okay, let me tell you this, in Nigeria, your biggest markets are not Nigerians. I swear to God, if you can bring that product outside of Nigeria to those eclectic people in Europe who are looking for crazy style, I tell you, you will be shipping 100% out of Nigeria to the likes of Germany and Italy, and you wouldn't even care what Nigerians think. Just think about it. I'm going to end that because you and I can talk. I love that whole fashion business aside. To the other lady about closed mouth. Have you ever been to a doctor and you walk into the doctor's office and the doctor starts talking first? The doctor would always close his mouth. He will ask you one question, he will close his mouth. At the end of all your answers to his question, then he speaks and he will say, because you told me you have stomach pain at 9 p.m., I think either aspirin or Panadols are right for you. It doesn't mean he closes his mouth all the way to the end, but he never speaks first. Never. No doctor speaks first. Sorry, that's why I think Christianity and evangelism needs to change. We speak too much in sales. Let people speak their problem and tie that problem to the value you offer. Japanese negotiation skill. The man who opens his mouth first will always lose. You read it anywhere. If you negotiate with Japanese people, they never open their mouth to make an offer first. In sales, if you ever see a salesman who is first to speak, first to tell you the great features they have, just know that that's not a salesman. So what I mean by a big heart and a big ear and close your mouth is you must listen first. You are allowed to ask probing questions. So how was your night? So how would this change your life? So how fast is your son growing? How much do you have to spend for shoes? What is your worry? You know, who are the kind of people you want to impress? Salespeople ask 10 questions and keep their mouth shut. So just clarifying, I'm not saying don't talk at all. I'm saying you never speak before you have fully heard the customer's pain. If you go for confession in the Catholic Church, the priest will say, what have you come for? You say, forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. This is my 55th confession. I stole, I looked at a woman's bum, I abused my sister. He allows you speak first. And what does the priest do? The priest now sells to you redemption and forgiveness and recommends for you to go and pray about it. These principles are universal principles that you'll just have to bring into sale. Hear people first. Understand with your heart, hear with your ears, ask with your mouth, gather all that before you put before them the options. And that's the clarity. I hope it's clear.
All right. Final question from Crystal, and then we'll call it a wrap.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I think part of the question was answered in the answers he has given, but I'll still ask anyway. Thank you so much for this session. I really used to hate sales and marketing with a passion, but your session has made me gain interest in sales again, a fresh interest. Yes, so my industry is publishing. Yeah, my industry is publishing.
Yes.
And it's a really tricky industry in Africa. But the way my business model is my main customers are the authors because they pay us to edit and design and get their books printed. But I'm not a traditional publisher, so I don't really sell the books. So I was very interested when you talked about the end user is not always the buying, it's not always the person who buys. We should focus on the buying customers. So what happens in a tricky situation like ours, because what is keeping us in business is we have so many people who want to write and tell their stories.
Yes.
But then they also have customers to sell to, and the reading culture in my country, which is Uganda, is very low. The poverty level is low. People would rather spend money on a bar of soap than on a book if they are the same price. And so it affects my customers, which affects me, because now I'm focusing on the people producing the books. But then we all, both my customers, the authors and me, have a problem that at the end of our business transaction, there's still another step of getting readers, because if we have my customers selling more books, then it's better business for me. They'll keep coming back to reprint, things like that. So what happens in a situation like that? Because now I see you've opened my eyes to where my business model is lacking, where the problem is, because there's another end user at the end. Yes. How can I address that?
Karibu Crystal, thank you very much. Your business model is a B2B to B2C, which is there are always business people in between before you get to the final customer who's actually paying. My only advice to you would be this. You're in what we call a love triangle. You and your clients, the author, need to also combine in a partnership, be at the face of the end customer. You cannot rely on the author to go into the market and find out what will people read and how much will people pay. You have to go with that customer to say, listen, let's go into the market. Let's go to Kampala, a secondary school in Kampala, or to parents. Let's understand together their reading appetite. Are they happy having appetite for 50 books with pictures, stories from outside or inside Uganda? Because that feedback helps you and your core clients, which is the author, to provide books that serve that interest. But you cannot rely on the author to go and find that info only, because the author is blinded by his own passion.
Okay.
And I would ask you to say, your author should be able to pay for a half day, a quarter day session with the real end users. Let's go together. Let's go access and interview these people, these parents, to say, man, really, what is the affordability for you to buy a book if it is produced? Crystal, let me also ask you to think about this business model, co-share. A model that thinks that one person should pay for the money for one book only and be the only person that owns it is a flawed model. That's the model we used to have with taxi service. You have to buy one car, own the car, and pay for the ride. I think in Uganda, like in Kenya, like in Africa, books should be co-shared. I think if 4 families rotate a book and there's a service that maintains that book, so that when the 6-year-old girl in house 1 is finished, the girl that is currently 4-year-old in house 2 can adopt that book and read the same content, but we all pay the price for the book. That might be a different business model you might explore that reduce the cost of entry per family or per user, but there's a community that shares and manages that hardware over the lifetime of it. Because the lifetime of a book always is longer than the lifetime of the education of the reader. So what you and I read as 7-year-olds, when we move to 9-year-olds, the book still has a lifetime, even though we have moved on. But that lifetime is for the guy that was 5-year-old when we were reading it at 7. Hence, if that book from your author could be preserved over a 6-year lifetime, you can have 3 users paying for it over time. Again, that's a whole different business discussion. But just rethinking, the value of a book outlives the one reader that reads it. And your product, your pricing must be over the lifetime value of the product.
The book. Wow,
That's
thank
a whole
you very
different
much.
business consulting, Crystal. We can talk about it.
Yeah.
Wisdom.
Too much wisdom.
Yeah, right. We can go on and on, right? So many questions, so many people wanting to speak. But hey, we have to call it a day at this point in time. We have to respect our facilitators' time. Unfortunately, no, I'm not taking no more hands up. You can lower your hands. Thank you so much, Joseph Mojume. It's been, and someone said this has been our best masterclass. You guys keep saying it. Every session is always your best masterclass. But honestly, this session has been awesome. I mean, it's worth its value in gold. Thank you so much. And we wish you all the best.
Can I ask for one last comment before I leave? Ladies, this is a free service. I don't ask for payment from Shay or anyone. I give freely. There are 99 plus people in this call. Can I ask one favor? That you do one good that will cost you something for someone in the coming week. That's the real thank you that I would like. 99 small good. Bend out of your way to do something that will cost you. Let's say Joseph was going to charge you $1. Convert $1 to your local currency and do good for one woman in the next 1 week. That is the biggest thank you I would have. Do $1 good for one woman in the next 1 week, and I would really appreciate the 99 plus people in this call. I'm not going to keep track, but please help out and I'd appreciate it.
Ladies, we are women of honor, so I trust that all of us, right, will honor that request, starting from me, right? Thank you so much, Joseph. It's been an awesome session as usual. We look forward to having you in subsequent cohorts. And thank you so much, and do enjoy the rest of your weekend. All right, ladies.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Can
you. Can you see the chat room? Everyone is just buzzing with appreciation. Thank you, ladies. We have to go right now. Thank you.